Hi, welcome to the Pot Smoker's Bible. My name is Diane, and I am the author of the Pot Smoker's Bible. Now, today we're doing part 2 of chapter 1. It's called The Gray. And if you haven't seen part 1, you might want to go back and see it. So I'm going to go ahead and go on with part 2 of chapter 1. It's called The Gray. Now, our myths were true. That is the Gray story also. But we never knew why war broke out or why the gods left. Now, Ishi tells me that it's because when the Grey had sex with the humans, it created a plague that devastated their homeworld. It devastated their population. It made the women infertile, and it spread so fast as a sexually transmitted disease that they had to stop having sex. So, they had to resort to celibacy, and they had to stop reproducing through sex. So they became clones. During our myths are actual history, but only one-sided. Now, the war that they fought in our skies was resolved when they decided to clone themselves. Now, some of the gods wanted to just annihilate the human race. Others knew that we were vital to their survival. Our gray DNA would be pure and would allow them to recreate their race in our image. So the war on the gods ended. In order to keep our DNA pure, the gray petitioned for and was given the right to isolate and preserve our race. We were quarantined so that other races wouldn't introduce new contaminants into our planet with their presence. They, the Grey, of course, were also banned from all contact with us. We were left to our own devices, so to speak. An infant race, more primitive than Grey. We had just enough intelligence to begin our evolution, but we had no one to guide us, except the Watchers who watched over us. Now, we did our worst, or perhaps we did our best. But without God, we went back to our more primitive ways. Now, the Watchers watched over us, and they protected us from innate danger. They guided those of us that were able to connect with them, people like Nostradamus and Einstein and Mahatma Gandhi. But they never came face to face with us. The Watchers were our unseen guides and our protectors to keep us safe until their return. Now, we created for ourselves a society based on the memory of our God. We struggled to survive. We followed our more primitive instincts. We created religions to explain our myths of the gods. But without contact with them, we recreated them in a more grandiose fashion. Our once flesh and blood alien parents became fantastic magical beings that were all powerful gods. Now, this left to our own thoughts, we failed to create a society like the society that had been before, the Society of the Grey. Of course, the Grey knew the probability was certain that we would mess up in our isolation, which is why the Watchers were set to watch over us. Now, they ran the probabilities, and they created a means to ensure that when the time came for their return, they would have the means to reconnect with us. Because the Grey knew without them that we would degenerate into a more primitive society. They prepared for our descent into chaos. Because they had to limit their contact with us, they chose a single family to be their sole remaining contact. That family was Israel, of course. Now, Abraham was singled out, And his bloodline was manipulated to ensure that no matter how wrong we went, there would always be one family here that would remain connected to them. Now, Israel had been intended to be a hereditary priesthood. If they had done their job, the human race would have had the guidance of the gray continually. But when they refused, humanity was left to their own devices. Much of our knowledge of God was lost. Now, had the Jewish people remained as intended, our history would have been very different. When Israel rebelled, the gray set in motion a very different plan to create a different priesthood. Now, this priesthood was designed to remain loyal to the gray. But the plan was, by necessity, very complicated. Oh man, is it complicated. But in order for the priesthood to become the priesthood of Zion is not a priesthood as we think of it. Okay? The gray do not want to be worshipped. The priests do not preach. It's not our job. Now, the priesthood was designed to be interpreters. The gray are a race of telepaths. They speak with their minds, not with their voices. The priests were and are a telepathically enhanced human family. They have the capability of speaking and hearing with their minds. We would call the ancient priesthood interpreters today. Now, the prophecy of Zion was created to create a nation of telepathic interpreters called priests. Their job will be to work with the gray to save humanity from itself. Now, they will be teachers and they will create a better society. The gray will provide them with the knowledge and the means to correct our childish and very dangerous social practices. The so-called priests of Zion will be interpreters, working with the gray to save the human race from itself. Now, the gray have already created this priesthood. They have already found people on earth who are capable of telepathy. They have provided us with the means to activate our latent telepathic genes. They have manipulated our lives in order to teach us to be more like them. The priesthood of Zion walks among us. They have already been created by the gods. Because of the lack of communication between the two races, however, the priests are unaware of their calling. They live their lives separate from society, but hidden within it. They don't know who or what they are. They have no clue of their purpose. They only know that they are different. Because there's no open communication yet with the gray, the priests of Zion have no way of knowing what they are. The prophecy was written in order to create a means to communicate with the priesthood. It was designed, it designates the future leaders of the priests. It teaches them their purpose. It instructs them in how to bring about first contact. It provides them with the means to establish themselves in the existing society. The prophecy is the key to opening relations between the species. When the leaders of Zion find the prophecy, they alone will understand it. As we know, the prophecy, as it has come down to us, has been a big mystery. It was a puzzle unsolvable. But Zion and Messiah know the language, and to them it speaks plainly. As the leaders of the priesthood, it was left to them to solve the mystery of prophecy. The gray are waiting for an event to happen. The priests have been instructed to stage an event which will allow the gray to enter our world openly and will establish the priesthood. It will be a worldwide event which will focus the world's attention on them. This first contact event will be staged by the priests. It is what the Grey are waiting for. Now, when this event occurs, they, the Grey, will come bearing gifts for humanity. They will provide the priests with supplies and technology capable of feeding the hungry, curing disease, healing the mentally sick. They will work with the priests to provide for all of the population. Their arrival will be a gift of salvation to all of humanity. But the Grey will only work with the interpreters, the priesthood, because of the necessity of telepathy. But the priests are necessary. But the childish ways of the rest of the population is just as big a factor as to why the Grey only want to work with us. The Grey reserve the right to limit their human interactions with their created counterparts. Now, the nation of Zion, the families of the priests, and all those who join them, this nation will be a physical place and created for the purpose of a spaceport, which will be built there. The technologies will be developed for human use. All human-alien contact will take place there. The nation of Zion will be the Grey human interface for the planet Earth. Now, the Grey feel that this place called Zion will be the safest means to integrate humanity into the intergalactic federation and to introduce them to their children. They know that the majority of humans have been taught to fear them. The abductions didn't help. So all contact will be in this single designated place. Those who do not trust the aliens will not have to deal with them. The Grey know that limited contact will be required to ease the fears of the people. Now, the years following first contact will be very dangerous for humanity. The fearful and the rejected will continue their childish activities. They will try to stop the inevitable changes brought about by the contact. This will create very dangerous years for years to come. The foolish of our race have already created dangerous conditions. There is no way to stop the coming catastrophe. Since the 1990s, the Grey have been telling us that it's too late to stop what's coming. They've been trying to tell us about the earth changes that have already begun. The Grey blame us 100%. We humans have sealed our own fate. Now, the Grey left us with instructions to prepare shelters in the mountains in order to survive the main catastrophic event. We must be above ground, but within the earth. Those who go underground will be entombed. Those who are above ground will be incinerated. So the Grey warn us to go into the mountains to survive. The Grey created us. We are their genetic prodigy. They are our gods returned. They left us a message in the Torah. We will come. We will save you. We will teach you our ways. We are your creators. We will return. See you next time.